Well, my penguin story was that when I was in this frigate in the guard ship in the Falkland Islands, stopped the Argies taking it over in 1956. When was the Queen coronated?
53.
In 1954 then. A king penguin came into Port Stanley Sound and went his way up to the schoolmaster's garden, where the schoolmaster found the king penguin, and he couldn't have arrived at a better place because the schoolmaster was an ornithologist. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Birds,
Well,
yes.
penguin isn't a bird.
Immediately looked after the penguin, for 24 hours, and then decided that it should have been in Antarctica breeding with all the other penguins down there, but something had gone wrong with its navigation system, and he'd ended up in the Falklands. And so His Excellency, the Governor, was informed, Sir Miles Clifford, and he called a special meeting in Government House to decide what to be done with the penguin. And I represented the Royal Navy at this meeting. And there was the head of the Falkland Islands, the chairman of the Falkland Islands Company, and the colonial secretary, who was the winger to the governor, and the officer commanding the Falkland Islands Defence Force. And I think there was somebody else, I can't remember, was there. Anyway, I was sitting sort of bored with the whole situation, wondering whether I was going to get a drink when the meeting was over. But I suddenly heard His Excellency say, well, I'm sure we can rely on the Royal Navy to do that. And what they decided was that if the schoolmaster had recommended that the thing to do was to take the penguin out 500 miles or something away from the Falklands and ditch it, and it would then home in on all its friends down in Antarctica. And and all the eyes were sort of focused on me. Well, of course, Your Excellency. So we ended up with the penguin, came on board HMS Varian Bay, and it was billeted in the communications nest down. And they made a hammock for it. and it had a sailor's hat with HMS Varian Bay. And this was all photographed by the doctor, who was absolutely bloody useless as a doctor, but quite a good amateur photographer. And anyway, we then set off for Montevideo, which was 1,000 miles away, with the penguin. And sometimes navigators said, well, it'll be about sort of 5 o'clock in the first dog watch there, that we'll be halfway between the Falklands and Montevideo in Uruguay. And so, and I'd worked out that, that we'd have to give the penguin a fairly sort of soft launch. And so I got hold of the shipwright. We only had one shipwright, but he was qualified in pretty well everything, welding and joinery and everything else. And I said, well, I want you to build some sort of ramp so that we can launch the... Oh, that's very easy, sir. Because in his course, they'd been taught to build ramps for burials at sea. Anyway, so he organised that, and the captain had been keeping a pretty low profile over the whole situation.
You weren't the captain.
No, I was the first lieutenant.
So why had you been in this committee in the Falklands?
Oh, because I was the first lieutenant and the captain wasn't going to go to bloody meetings. That was Wyndham Hale, was the captain, known as Mixie. Anyway, when we got to the situation with 500 miles from the Falklands in Montevideo, I went up, reported to the captain that everything was ready to go. Right, I'll stop the ship and you can go down and launch the Penguin. So I went down, by which time the sailors had decided they were on the side of the Penguin. And pretty well the whole ship's company, other than those on watch, were sort of hanging around there. And the chief boatswain's mate, who was the sort of head upper deck sailor, came up to me and he said, "The lads don't want you to ditch the Penguin, sir." I could see a sort of mutiny face. And poor old Captain Bligh was sort of pushed off somewhere down in a boat, you know. And I thought I could see that the Penguin would still be on board and I would be in the boat. So I said, he was known as the Buffer, the chief boatswain. I said, "Buffer, I'm not going to ditch the Penguin." I said, "You're going to ditch the Penguin. And you better get a couple of the lads to give you a hand." So the situation was sort of resolved in a sort of wobbly situation. And eventually on the shipwright's launching pad, a lovely sort of slide into the water, the Penguin was and off he went. Once in the water, they're very mobile, never saw him again. And
but I thought you gave him a pretty serious farewell on the deck, didn't you?
What?
That's what...
I was very glad that that there was the mutiny hadn't broken out. Once the Penguin was in it had been launched. That's a weird thing. They might have got Barzi.
Killed the wasp.
It's a wasp.
Oh my God! You just killed it.
Killed it.
Well done.
I went back to report to the captain that the Penguin had been launched and we could carry on to Montevideo, and everybody was. All the sailors sort of disappeared, muttering, "Fucking bastard." and it was the whole situation was resolved. Then when we got back, about a couple of weeks later, a week later, the Penguin was back in the schoolmaster's.